In this lesson, we're going to talk about different kinds of choke defenses. So, getting choked can be an extremely frightening situation because your airway is getting cut off, and depending on the position you're being choked in, the pressure can be really immense and can make you lose consciousness quickly. All right, there's a number of different chokes. There's single hand chokes, there's double hand chokes. They can be done from the front, the side, the back. It could be done with the arm in a headlock or a rear neck choke from that position. We're going to go over just a couple from double choke, a couple different positions, standing and the ground. Okay, so with double choke, this person is wrapping their arms around your neck. They are using violence to press into your throat. Again, extremely frightening, okay? What we want to try to immediately do, and do these at the same time, is to strike and to use a little bit of leverage to break a little bit of the hand off of the throat as I'm striking. So you can do this one of two ways, whichever works best for you. You can use one arm to pull against their wrist or their forearm as you strike up toward the face. So if they're a little bit taller than you and they're pressing down, you can pull the wrist to the side as you palm strike between their arms up to their face. If you don't think that you can get both arms or create enough space to breathe, you can use both hands and pluck and it's like opening a bag of chips. You can use both hands to pull as you front kick. So you're striking the groin, you're creating a lot of pain in the other person as you're pulling, kind of just using the leverage of your body, not so much just pulling with your arms, but thinking about grabbing and then cinching down, opening a bag of chips, as you kick. It's going to create just a little bit of space for you to breathe. Maybe you tuck your chin, and you've kicked them. All right? So hopefully their response is if they're choking you and you kick them, their grip loosens up, and they start to hunch over from the kick that you just delivered to them. All right? So we're using that front kick to strike the testicles. We're plucking the hands off of our neck just a little bit. Now, we've got those hands. If we kick and we maintain control of the hands a little bit, they're now on the defensive. They just got kicked. Then maybe we can shove in, right? We can bring one arm up, use the ridge of our arm, our forearm and our elbow to step and push back in and strike to their face and get them off balance, and we regain some momentum and power, and we can do that a number of times. We can strike until they start to fall or to back off, and then we can create space and get away. So ideally, kick to the groin, and then some strikes or elbows. Palm strikes work as well to the face as you're maintaining a little bit of control. You can keep that chin tucked once you've created that little bit of space. So you can strike, push away, and then escape. So that's two-handed choke if it's from the front, standing up. If it's from the side, so the assailant is choking you from the side, similar, all right, but we're not going to be able to reach behind us to pluck like that. We're just going to bring both hands up, and we're going to pluck that outside arm. Okay, so just the arm that's right here to the front of the throat, that's the most dangerous. The other hand is just it's gripping the back of our neck. That's not the main threat, right? So we're going to pluck that lead hand down and kind of peel it off our neck as we drop our body weight and tuck our chin. All right, now the assailant is still there. We haven't done a simultaneous attack. All right, so as we pluck, this is where we need to be quick. That's when we need to start responding, okay? So if it's a double hand choke, but their hand is going to be over your shoulder, that's going to make it difficult, especially if you've pulled it down a little bit, that's going to make it difficult to raise your arm all the way up and maybe like hammer fist to the face. Their arm is going to be in the way of your arm and their face, okay? So we want to strike down toward the groin. We're going to drop our weight, and then if, depending on how close they are, we can either drive the elbow or we can hammer fist down toward the groin. And we're going to do that a couple of times until we're able to turn our stance towards the opponent. And this works the same on both sides, right? So if they're on this side, I pluck it down, I hammer fist, I start to take steps back so I can turn toward the assailant. If I still have control over their arm, that's fine. But what I've done is now I've created an opportunity for this arm to square up, and I can line it up. If their other arm is still on the back of my neck, and I've still got control of this front arm, then I can shoot up and either palm strike or like forearm strike. I can shoot that up between their arms and begin attacking the face, okay? Especially if we've struck the groin a couple times, their grip might loosen. Like we said earlier, they might hunch over, and then I can turn elbow, hammer fist, turn palm strike, and then create distance and escape, okay? If the attack is directed from behind, okay, we can't really do any sort of plucking if it's a double grab from behind, okay? The biomechanics just don't work. So what we're going to do is use a little bit of rotation to give ourselves an advantage, okay? So I've explained it this way before. I want you to imagine like the bad guy is holding on to like a pull-up bar, right? And that pull-up bar is your neck, okay? If a pull-up bar is stationary, you can tend to hold on a lot longer, right? There's no rotation of the bar, so you're able to secure your grip. If the bar begins to rotate, right? Like so those circus pull-up bars where if you can hold on for a minute, you can win $100. They rotate and it peels your grip off. We're going to try to do the same thing, and we're going to introduce some rotation to peel their grip off, okay? So if you get attacked and choked from behind, we're going to step forward to kind of go with that momentum and extend their arms a little bit. We're going to step forward as we raise our hands up. This is going to create kind of like a vice between our shoulders, their hands, and our neck/head, okay? And when I say arms up, I don't want like here. We need biceps to ears to create that vice. So, getting choked from behind, we're going to step forward, biceps to ears. Whatever leg you left behind you, that's the leg, that's the way we're going to rotate, okay? So if you step forward with your left leg, you're going to rotate to your right. And it just depends on what's your natural step forward leg, okay? So for me, I'm stepping forward with my left, so I'm going to twist to my right. Now when I do this, I want to try to face the opponent as much as I can. I'm going to introduce some rotation, and what happens to their hands is when that rotation, if they're still trying, their hands are viced with our shoulders, that's going to flare their hands up a little bit. It might even kind of pinch and jam some of their fingers, but it's going to flare their hands up a little bit. And then once we rotate our neck, if they're holding on, it introduces some compression in one wrist and some extension in the other. So their grip is much, much weaker from this kind of rotated position than it is straightforward, okay? So introducing that angle is going to weaken their grip. It's going to pinch and jam some fingers. I've done self-defense seminars where when I'm doing this and they rotate, like one of my fingers will pop and stuff, you know? So I can attest that the biomechanics behind this work, even at just kind of half speed, like it's not always very comfortable for my fingers, okay? Once we have introduced that rotation, this is where we do have a high arm in this scenario, so we could drop our hammer fist. We can turn, spot the face, and we can drop and turn towards that assailant. And then once we're facing that assailant, then we follow up and we defend ourselves with strikes, shove, dropping and closing the gap, and getting away. Okay, so those are the three different directions for a standing double choke, all right? The front, the side, and the back, Okay, so we plucked and kicked, we plucked and hammer fisted, and then turned, and then we extended our arms, rotated, and struck. So those are our 3 standing ones. Okay, we're going to transition real quick and talk about what to do if we are getting choked from the ground. All right, if we find ourselves on our back and the assailant is on top of us, choking us, what we have to do is immediately, because all of their body weight can be used to push into this choke. So this is probably one of the most dangerous chokes. And we can be choked from a couple different ground positions, but the response is kind of the same. We want to collapse their arms as best we can, okay? So they're choking in, their hands are preoccupied. My hands are not. We don't want to just bring our hands up to our neck and be like, oh, all right? What we're going to do is, as we feel the choke coming in, if you find yourself in this position, always try to keep your chin tucked to mitigate that choke, right? Because if I can turn my head and tuck, maybe it takes longer for him to get a good grasp. And while the choke is trying to happen, I can use my arms and I'm going to drop them into his arms. So what this looks like is we are attacking this inside part of the arm. And we're using force to engage his elbows, all right? So your arms will go back and then drop toward the insides of his arms, and that's going to buckle the arms. It's really hard to continue to choke someone with as much force if my arms are buckled in like this. So we're trying to collapse those arms to this position. Now, as soon as we collapse those arms, we've also gained a little bit of control. So we've collapsed them in. They're trapped here. My arms are trapping his arms as well, which means there's nothing that he can do. If I hold those arms tight, there's nothing he can do to catch himself if I were to roll him forward. And so what we're going to do is what's called a buck and roll. It's where we take and extend our hips and bridge up. This introduces some force and direction where their body weight is going to go over top of you. If we introduce a little bit of rotation, then their body will go off to the side as well. And that's what we're going to try to accomplish. While we're holding their arms, as soon as we collapse their arms, we are going to buck our hips to the side. So all I'm doing is pushing up with my hips and then introducing some rotation. And I'm doing that at the same time to make the assailant's body move off to the side while I control the arms, and ideally they will face plant into the ground, all right? So that is going to introduce some pain and some distraction so then we can respond and get away. So I'm getting choked, I try to tuck my chin, I collapse the arms, I buck and roll my hips, they fly that way. Now at this point, I could probably let the arms go, and I'm going to create some space by pushing my body back. So I bucked and rolled, I'm gonna get back, and then I can begin to get up, okay? Now in a fight, of course, things happen very rapidly, so that's why we wanna always get up with our eyes facing the assailant. We don't want to buck and roll, and then try to roll away from the assailant. We're going to buck and roll, and then we're going to push away. You could continue to roll with the assailant and strike and follow up. That is a possibility depending on how your body rolls. They might hold on to you and you might roll with them, and then you've got to start striking and following up. So ground fights, a lot can happen, a lot can change, but we've at least immediately removed the threat of being choked from that position, and then we have to continue to fight. Okay? Either fight or stand up and get away. So, one more time, just for a quick review. They've mounted you, which just means they're sitting on top of you. They begin to choke. You tuck, collapse the arms by attacking the inside of the elbow. Push your hips and turn to roll. Buck your hips, they fall over on the side. And then we can try to get away. All right, and that's how we would defend a mounted choke from the ground. So go back, review each of these. You can shadow practice like I've done with an imaginary opponent, or get someone to watch this with you and practice back and forth. If you were to practice back and forth, make sure when you're doing the chokes, everything is at a low level of intensity right now. Hands are just gently on the neck, and we are going through the motions slowly so we can understand the biomechanics, make sure we're moving the body effectively, and our strike placement is accurate. As you begin to get more repetitions in, you can begin to increase either the intensity of the choke or the intensity of your response, okay?